Good afternoon, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and get started. So, my name is Stephanie Alfaro. I'm going to be presenting about maximizing student success using my Microsoft Learning Accelerators for Fluency, Comprehension, Vocabulary, and TELPAS speaking. So, I did present the same presentation in another session. So, this is a repeat. In case anyone missed it or came in late, it is going to be the same presentation. Okay, before I get started, I do want to share a little bit about myself. So as I had said, my name is Stephanie Alfaro. I'm a fourth grade bilingual teacher at Farias Elementary, and this is my 7th year teaching in the same school. And I'm also the campus EIT. I'm a girl mom. I have two toddlers, and I also have a fur baby that's also a girl. So in my house, it's all full of girls except for my husband. I am an avid reader. I do love to read in any type of format, either physical books, ebooks, and as a mom, audiobooks have been a true game changer, especially during the summer when we're all here. It, it really did help. So in my family, we are readers. Even my little one, it's just part of who we are. My love for reading is also the reason I'm passionate about helping students to foster that same love. I know reading can be a challenge for many, but with the right tools and support, we can make it accessible, enjoyable, and empowering for every student. Which brings me to today's topic, which is Microsoft Reading Progress and Microsoft Reading Coach. It's a powerful tech tool that supports students with fluency practice, giving them feedback and the confidence they need to grow as readers. I do want to take a quick survey. If you could just tell me really quick on the chat, whichever one pertains to you, either it's 3, 2, or 1. If you have used the program before, if you've heard of it, or this is your first time hearing of it. Hi, Ivan. Hey, Ms. Corpus. Okay, so I do see there's a little bit of a mixture of 2s and 1s. If I ever go too fast during the presentation, it is going to be recorded in case you ever want to go back. I am going to share the slides with you at the end of the presentation, but if you ever need to stop me throughout the presentation, just let me know. I do tend to go a little bit fast, but slow me down if I have to. So why Microsoft Progress matters. So these are the 3 main points that I wanted to share with you all before we get started. It's a good monitoring tool. The students get instant feedback, and then it really did help my students with the TELPAS. So what I mean by monitoring is that once we're in the upper grade levels, it's a little bit harder for us to go through fluency because it's not really embedded in our curriculum, or there isn't a set time where we have to do fluency. Although this year we have been told that Microsoft Progress is going to be embedded, so that's good. I haven't seen it or anything, but I know that's going to be good for us. But without constant monitoring, the small gaps become bigger gaps over time. So if we end up letting those gaps that start in the lower grade levels go all the way to the upper grade levels, it does get really hard for the students and harder for teachers that are focusing on STAR and TELPAS to help them. But this program will help with that. It does give the students instant feedback, whereas traditional fluency assessments, they're time consuming and we don't always have a chance to give them individualized feedback. So I have said before, when I started in 5th grade, 7 years ago, I honestly didn't even know how to do a fluency check with my students. I do remember learning in college, going through the steps, I believe, but by the time I was already in the classroom, I didn't remember, and I never got a training for it. And And I guess I never really like looked for help, but I know it's available. But now the good thing is throughout the years I did learn, and I would do the fluency checks and I would circle and everything, the words that they mispronounce or omissions, and then I would stop there. So I would get the words per minute, put it in my RTIs, and that's pretty much it. That was fluency for fifth grade and fourth grade, at least in my case. I know everyone is different. But what Microsoft Reading Coach does is the extra step. So now that the students have done the fluency check, right away it gives them that instant feedback where they could practice vocabulary or even comprehension. And I'll show you all what I mean throughout the presentation. So another important factor for my case was that it helped us for TELPAS and especially the speaking portion. So many students score lower in speaking because of the limited structured practice opportunities. I know as a bilingual teacher, it is a lot on our plate because we do have to do double the lessons, double the planning, double the grading, and so on. So what I noticed for my students when it came to taking the TELPAS, they were nervous when it came the day of the test, and especially the speaking portion. A lot of my students froze, not this year, but last year. They didn't want to speak. I had maybe 2 students that completely refused to do that portion of the test. And I wasn't sure why, because we did practice during the summer K-12 whenever we could. Again, I try to put it in our schedule as much as we could, but sadly, I think it wasn't enough. So what I wanted to do this year or last year for my students, I really wanted to find something that would help them gain that confidence in speaking into the microphone when it came down to the test. And I really believe Microsoft reading progress did help. And I'll show you all again later on in the presentation some data that backs it up. So what are Microsoft Reading Accelerators? The Learning Accelerators are Microsoft's way of helping teachers do more with less effort. So they're already in Teams. There's nothing extra that you have to download or pay for. And there's 2 tools that are important for this presentation, which I had mentioned. It's Reading Progress and Reading Coach. So they're both focused on building fluency, comprehension, vocabulary, and even speaking skills for TELPAS. So everything happens inside Teams. You assign a passage, students record themselves reading the passage, and then the tool does the scoring and feedback automatically. The only thing that the teacher has to do is review the data. This means that it's less time grading and more time working directly with students who need support. So especially for the lower grade levels, once you already know where they're and I would think more like for kinder, first grade, what type of phonics they're lacking. I think that's the proper word. I'm sorry, like I said, I only taught upper grade levels. You'll have a better idea of your groupings that you need to do, what students need, certain letter sounds that they need to work on, and the program gives you all of that. It's pretty cool. Wait, I feel like I missed something. Wait. No, okay. So I want to share some traditional process versus with Learning Accelerator. What I mean by traditional process is the teacher to student doing the fluency reads versus Microsoft and student. So the traditional, of course, you do need an adult, a teacher, your resource teacher, the reading coach, or anyone, and the student. You do have to score it manually. It limits frequency, and then it delays feedback. So whenever I would do fluency without Microsoft Accelerator, it was rare that I would do it. And when I did do it, like I had mentioned, I did the fluency, I would circle their mistakes and stuff like that. And then I would get my words per minute and write it down in my RTIs 504s, and that's pretty much it. I wouldn't do anything else with it, sadly. I know, sounds really bad, but now that I have Microsoft Accelerator, it does that extra step for me. So it is a digital reading practice. The students could practice anytime. The time that I had my students do it was whenever we came back from PE or music. That way we have a little in between while I'm getting ready for the rest of the day. And it only took the kids max 5 minutes. And we would do this every day. So I would set the expectation in the beginning of the year, you have to do it. It does take a little bit more time, maybe just that first week. But then after that, the kids were completely on their own the whole year without minimal interaction from me. That way I had more time to focus on the other students and needed a little bit more help with certain subjects or more focus on the reading, and everyone else was completely on their own. And it is auto scoring. There's frequent checks and instant feedback. So this is a little logo for reading progress. This is how it's going to look in our teams once we are there. I will show you the live demo. And like I had mentioned, it's a digital fluency tool for reading aloud practice and assessment. So it is a one-to-one reading check without the scheduling stress. So it did really alleviate a lot of my my stress as a teacher, having to try to fit everything in one day. And I would say that this program did help a lot. Like it was something that I didn't have to worry about because I already knew Microsoft had my back. And then I also think that it helped my students in the sense of anxiety. For example, I know, and I'll use my husband as an example. He's already an adult, but whenever he has to do reading out loud in professional developments or stuff like that, he still gets nervous. And I know students get nervous when they're caught in the classroom, especially our students with accommodations, either if they have dyslexia, RTIs, 504s, they do get nervous. So this program did help them a lot because they got to see that everyone in the classroom was working on it. They weren't singled out. Or if you're doing one-to-one with teacher and everyone else is working, they still get nervous because they're gonna see that they think that everyone is gonna hear them and hear them do all their mistakes. And this really alleviates that stress for that student, since again everyone's doing it at the same time. Even the students that struggled in my class, which I did have, I would say at least half of my class had an RTI or 504 plan or dyslexia or SPED. Everyone did it. I did have 100% that would always participate. Maybe just one or two that I would have to go every once in a while to go help them stay on track. But other than that, it was a breeze. So some of the key features, as I had mentioned, it does support multiple language. So in case you want to do fluency in Spanish, it does support different languages, and not just Spanish. It has a lot of them embedded. So I'm going to jump into some of the reports or how it actually looks. These are just going to be screenshots, and then I will go into the live demo in a bit. So this is, I did get this from Microsoft, their website. So any names that you see throughout the presentation, it's not from our students. It's just the Microsoft example. So this is how an individual insights, which is data for a student after they finish reading the fluency passage. So you do have the option for the student to record themselves while they're reading the passage. I didn't do this in my case because I just wanted my kids to focus on the fluency part and practice speaking. But I know this could help resource teachers or regular ed teachers when they're thinking about making a referral for a student that might need speech, especially in the lower grade levels where we catch it more. The recording could be helpful in that case. So if we see here, we notice that this student got 82 words correct per minute. So this would be her average. She did get a 92% accuracy rate. And then these are the categories that we're able to see. So the student had 2 mispronunciations, 5 omissions, 3 insertions, 4 repetitions, and 1 self-correction. And then if you notice, they're all color-coded. That way, when you go into the passage, you're able to see. So the 2 mispronunciations were physical and region. The omissions, which means that they skipped them, were these in red. The insertions were the words in green. The repetition were the words in blue. And then the self-corrections were the word in yellow. And this is for every student. So you're not going to just see 1 or 2. You do have the option to see all of your students' information like this. And if you could tell, she did 7 attempts, the reading level, the words, and if I go a little bit more to this side, this goes into the insights more in detail. Let's say I click on the word that she mispronounced, which was landform, and I want to go into and I want to see how she mispronounced it in case like, again, you're a speech teacher or you're a research teacher or a regular ed teacher and you're trying to refer her, you could jump to that section. Or if you just want to see how they mispronounced it, you're able to jump to, if you click here, jump to word, it would go to that section only instead of going through the whole video. So it does save a lot of time for us. And then individual report. So the one that I would use for my RTIs and 504s to get the word count is, oh, it's not on this page yet. I'm jumping ahead, sorry. So this is just the report for the fluency. Comprehension. So how does Microsoft Progress track comprehension? You could add comprehension questions at the end of each passage. You decide what you want to do. In my case, I did not add the questions. I just, like I said, wanted to work on the fluency and the speech practice, but it is available. So let's say, for example, this is a reading passage. Once they're done reading the passage, these are the questions that would come out. So you have the option to add multiple choice or short answer options. The teacher can access both of those assignments, the fluency and the comprehension, in the same assignment. So you don't have to do separate assignments, one for the fluency and then the other one for the comprehension questions. It will show up together. And then another good thing is that it does auto grade the multiple choice questions. I did notice that for the open-ended questions, it does give like a key, like an AI generated key, but every student can answer it differently, so I don't think it would grade it. But for sure, the multiple choice. So as I had mentioned, I didn't use the comprehension questions because I felt like it would lose more focus on the fluency, at least in my case. I just really wanted to focus on the fluency. But if you decide you want to do the comprehension questions, you can. And it does give, and if you do the comprehension questions, I would give them more than a minute to answer, because even as an adult, I tried reading this in a minute and I missed it by like maybe a sentence or two, so I wouldn't be able to answer the questions that you're asking me. So I would keep that in mind. I'd give them more time to read it, but that kind of defeats the purpose of trying to finish it in 5 minutes. Like I had said in the beginning, my kids were done with all the fluency checks in less than 5 minutes. Vocabulary growth. So this is my favorite part of reading progress, which is reading coach. Once the students are done reading the fluency passage, it gives them the option. Well, it doesn't give them the option. It takes them to this section, which is reading coach. So these are the words that were the most challenging for that student. They're going to practice these 5 words, which were mountains, physical, geography, glaciers, atmosphere. Either if they skipped it, they mispronounced it, or they omitted those words, it will show up here, so they have no choice. They have to practice them. And this is the part that I really liked, because in TELPAS, especially for our recent immigrants that are still struggling with the pronunciation, this is the section that helps them the most, because they're able to hear the word, they're able to see it if they're able to see it as a like cut up in syllables, and then they're also able to practice. And if they don't get it right, they'll repeat it again and again until they pronounce it correctly or to their best ability. There was some cases where for some reason my students would stay stuck on one word. Even I would pronounce it and I think I was correct, but it still wouldn't work. So I just had to like restart their computer. So that happened maybe like 3 times out of the year. But just in case, the program does glitch sometimes in this section. But again, it was very rare. So the reason that I really like this section is because it gives students individualized feedback. This is the feedback that I was talking about that the students get. So they don't get the same words. Like your 17 students are not going to get the same words for every passage. It is individualized to each student depending on the words that they mispronounce. So each student could get a different set of words. Maybe 1 or 2 will get the same, but it is tailored to their needs, not the whole class. So TELPAS speaking connection. So students, so as I had mentioned before, my main goal for this was to get my students to feel confident to speak into a microphone the day of testing. I really wanted to use this as a practice every day. And like I said, again, I know we have some in K-12, we have other resources that we could use, but this was the one that I felt was the fastest. And then they got time to practice every day. I had maybe one student that was still a little bit nervous to speak into the microphone, but I really do feel like this helped them a lot. Even my students that still have that accent when they speak in English, they weren't nervous at all. They spoke into the microphone the day of the test very confident, and I feel like this helped because we did practice every day. My students, and I'm pretty sure every student, every child, everyone loves to talk all day, but when it comes to the TELPAS test, they freeze for some reason. And I feel like with the help that we got from Microsoft Reading, it really did boost their confidence a lot, and they were ready. And I saw it in my kids when we took the TELPAS test, and it was a speaking portion. They were definitely ready. They weren't surprised, like, oh, I have to speak into a microphone. And even though they see the streaming and everything, and there's a lot of kids that are already streaming, for some reason the TELPAS does get them nervous. But some of the key points that I have here are that students practice reading passages out loud in English. Pronunciation feedback helps with oral proficiency. Audio video recordings can be saved for TELPAS prep. And then it also reduces student anxiety by allowing them practice before official assessments. So let's see. The data and insights. So the first 2 is, again, the whole class. This is the data that you're going to see once you start uploading assignments and the students turn them in. These are the 2 pages that pop out. And then the green one, right. And then the green one is individual. This is the one that I was talking about, the RTAs and 504s. So the class overview, once we have a couple of assignments that have been turned in, this is the page that we see. And again, these aren't students, it's random students from Microsoft. So let's say I have all my students clicked. I see the class average throughout the year. So you could see in this table, they started off around 80 words per minute. And towards the year, I would say they went up to 100, or maybe mid-year. But this data saves throughout the whole year. So it was really nice seeing at the end of the year how my class improved. And there were times where they would, and I would even see there were times where they went down, which was during like around Christmas break when everything starts going a little bit hectic and all over, or maybe even during testing. It was nice. I guess not nice, but like, it was like it related. Like they would go down and then up and then down and then up. But most of the time it was like this. It went steady going, picking up their average. And then these are the challenging words as a class. So these are the words that the whole class is struggling with, or they could be tricky words for them, which is good because maybe you could post them up in your alphabets, the bilingual alphabets, word walls. Sorry, I know they should be certain words, but I feel like these would also be helpful to put up. And again, if you do assignments in Spanish, the words will show up in Spanish as well, since we need English and Spanish words. Another class overview is a little bit more in detail. Let's say these are the different assignments I have. It shows you the level, nonfiction or fiction, and then the date that they were due. And it also gives you the mispronunciations, the omissions, insertions. So you could tell that this reading passage, the class average did get a high of omissions, and then there was a lot of mispronunciations in these two passages, these three. But this is the one that I would use the most. Like I said, for RTIs, 504, SPED, referrals, anything, I really liked it because all I had to do was click on a student. Let's say I click on Maria, and this is what it shows me. Like, it shows me all of the assignments that she did. So each date right here is a different assignment that they already turned in, and it shows me her average of words read. So as you could tell, she started at maybe 90 words and went all the way to 200 words. So I would click on a date more or less around the end of the marking period, let's say marking period 1, and then I would see the words that she read, which were 160 words per minute. Then I would go to marking period 2 and look at the words that she read, and so on. And again, the data doesn't erase over time. It does stay there all year. So you are able to track them throughout the whole year, as long as you post assignments. Before I continue, are there any questions on the reports or anything that I've showed so far? Okay, I will continue. So these are just some of the best practices I wanted to share. Like I said, I did get to use this program all year, so I kind of have an idea of how what doesn't work and what does, but everything worked all year. So I would really have all your students participate. In my class, I had a mixture of everything you could think of. I had students with a lot of different accommodations, dyslexia, SPED, RTIs, 504, speech, and they all participated. You do have the option to group them. Let's say, for example, you want your students that have a different reading level to read a different passage. You could assign a different passage to those students as to the other students, and so on. But I didn't do that, at least not last year. Maybe I will this year, but I wanted it to be as fast as possible, so I just had everyone reading the same passage. Some of the tools that I do suggest for a student to have is, of course, their Chromebook and student headphones with the speaking piece. That way they could minimize the distractions. You don't need them. We had done it without any headsets, and it still works, but it's just a little bit better, and that way they could focus a little bit more. I would recommend you to be consistent. So once I do the live demo, you're gonna see that I'm gonna upload all my assignments for the week in about 5 minutes. It's really easy to do. So I would set up all the assignments for the week in one sitting, and then since I always blame my babies, but since I am a mom, I'm always busy, so I don't get to do it after school. And then during school, we have to teach. And then during conference, there's a bunch of other things. So most of the time when I would upload all the 5 assignments is when we would come back from PE. And it's very easy to upload, and it's super fast. But I promise I will try to be a little bit more organized this year. Maybe not, but it is very easy. I am gonna go over it in a little bit, Ivan. I will go over how to upload the passages. And I'm going to show you, like, again, it does take less than 5 minutes. So finally, student success stories. I did want to share some data for my students this previous year. Nearly all of my students showed growth in the TELPAS, and most reached advanced. So 93% of my students maintained or improved their performance in the speaking portion. 69% of my students moved from intermediate to advanced, and then 25% stayed strong at intermediate level. So as I had mentioned, once we're in fourth, fifth, third, TELPAS does get really hard, especially to fit in there, since we have to also focus on STAR, science, reading, math, and then TELPAS on top of that. So I did notice this year, since I did practice a little bit more with the students speaking, they did improve, and then this is the data to show it. So I truly believe that this did help them for the TELPAS. So this is a quick start guide in case you want to share it with your teachers later on. Like I said, I am going to present this. I am going to share the presentation, but I am going to walk you through the live demo as well. So you would follow these steps. Yes, it could be used in Spanish too. I'll show you the options in a little bit too. These are the steps in case you want to go over it later on. But again, I am going to do the live demo. Let's see. Okay, I am on Teams. Can you all see the Teams page?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
So this is the Teams. In order to get to the assignments, like I'm going to show you how to upload assignments, I'm going to go to this one right here. So I already clicked on it, this tab right here, Teams, and your classrooms will show up here. Yours is going to look a little bit different. I did want to mention, if you're a classroom teacher with a roster, it will automatically be updated. Your classroom will already be there by MIS. If you are not a classroom teacher with a roster, you do need to contact MIS. Debbie, if you're an animal or San Juan teacher, or if you're an FAR teacher, contact Valentin. That way you could get your own classroom. Because if you're a CLL or resource teacher, or maybe a computer lab teacher, and you want to help out, you will need to contact someone to create the classroom. But if you're a teacher, it will be up. It would already be there automatically. You don't have to do anything. So I'm going to click on the class. Let's say this is my class. It should say A121, whatever classroom you're in, Alfaro, Sanchez, and I'm going to click on it. And then in order to upload the assignment, I already have some from my previous presentation and when I was practicing. So these are where the assignments show up. And this is usually when I start talking fast, so if I have to slow down, let me know. So I'm going to go to assignments. Once I am there, these are all the assignments that I've already uploaded. As you can tell, I already have some scheduled for the week, but I'm going to create one with you right here on Create. Click on Learning Accelerators, and the one that I'm going to focus on is Reading Progress. So there's 3 different options that you could use. You could upload your own Fluency passages. Let's say you get some online, or you want to use the Savas. You could upload them in English and Spanish, any language that you want. What you have to do in order to upload the Savas, I would recommend to copy all of the words, not the numbers, only the words, put them in a Word document, and then upload it. And if you want to know more about that, if we have time, I will show you how to do that. If not, then just reach out to Debbie or Valentin or me, and I could help you how to upload that. But like I had mentioned, the curriculum is, I believe the curriculum is going to embed it with our reading curriculum. So maybe they should already have the Savas Fluency passages, hopefully. But if not, there's other options that you could use. You could use the generated reading passages, which is AI. And then there's also samples already here that you could pick from. So you would pick the grade level and then pick the story that you want. So the one that I would do, the one that was the fastest, was AI. So I'm going to show you the fastest way that I would do I would upload the assignments, which was through AI. So I'm going to click on generate. The topic, these are all the different topics that you could pick from. Most of the time, since I wanted to do nonfiction, because of TELPAS, it's usually nonfiction stories. I would click on space, geography, earth, art, culture, animals. Even animals I know is a big thing that always shows up on TELPAS. So I'm going to go ahead and go with animals. The age of my students, it does go all the way up to 18-year-olds, but I'm going to click on 10. And then the length of words, I am only going to go up to 200 since it is fourth grade, but if you're a middle school or high school teacher, you could always pick up the word count. And then these are all of the different languages that you have. So it has a lot of different languages. Right now it is on English United States. There is English United Kingdom, Philippines, sorry, I don't even know what that is. And then there's Spanish. But for the Spanish, they did let me know that if you want to use Spanish Mexico, because if you click on Nicaragua, Panama, Guatemala, or Spain, it will try to pick up the accent from that place. And most of our students are from Mexico, but let's say you get one from El Salvador or Ecuador, you could always click on Spanish El Salvador or Mexico. But for right now, I'm going to go to English United States. This section right here, once your students start completing passages and those most challenging words that we saw, you could embed them in the AI passage that's going to come out. So right now there's not any because we haven't had anyone do any passages, but the words would come out here. Let's say, for example, because, apple, after would come out here, you could include them. It's an option, you don't have to. So I'm going to generate reading passage. It should take less than a minute to generate. Once it does generate and you like it, you look through it, you can click on use passage. If you want to up the complexity, which means the level, or if you want to put it down, you can. And again, it should take about seconds to upload. So did you see how I went from fascinating birds to interesting birds? So it just depends which one you want to use. Once you decide, I'm going to go ahead and click on use passage. And this is how it's going to come up. So this is the title. These are the words. Let's say I want to take off a sentence, or I want to edit it, I want to add a little bit more or take off less, you can. I'm going to take off the sentence just to show you. I'm going to delete it. Click on the check mark. And let's say, nope, I changed my mind. I want to go back and put it again. Click on the check mark, and you could go back and edit it as many times as you want. You can even edit the title as well. And the language, let's see how it looks in Spanish Mexico. And I don't know why it didn't come up. Maybe you have to do it separately. I didn't do it in Spanish this year, but maybe in the beginning you have to click on Spanish, but it's there. It is there. I'm going to go back to United States, and I am ready. You could see the student view before you assign it, so I do want you all to see it. Hopefully it comes out. So this is what the students are going to see. You don't need the option for them to record themselves before you assign the assignment. You could put them to not record. So before I start, can you all see the screen?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So I'm going to click on start, and this is, I'm just going to walk you through what the students would be doing. So it's going to give them a timer, and then this is what they have to record. So right now it's already recording. So the student would be reading, penguins are interesting birds that most likely live in the southern hemisphere, which is the part of the earth below the equator. There is one special type of penguin called, and so on. Let's say I click, I'm done, but I'm not going to click that yet. I do want to show you that there's these options. I never showed it to my students because I knew they were going to waste time and mess around with it. But maybe you have students, let's say, for example, you're in resource or special ed or in the unit, and you want them to have a bigger font size, you can increase the spacing. You could change the font, and then maybe there's students that need a certain color. You could do all of that. But again, I didn't show it to my class because I knew they were going to spend time. So if you don't even want them to waste time there, don't even tell them about that. Just have them focus on the reading for that minute that they need. So once they're done, they do have to click on I'm done. If they finish before the minute. If they don't finish before the minute, they'll cut them off. Like it'll take them out of the screen. I don't know if that's going to happen here if a minute already passed. Okay, I'm just going to click I'm done. Once the students are done, they have to click on this button right here that says use recording. But of course, let them press play the first attempt. That way they could see if they could hear the recording or not. And if they can't hear the recording, then you would click on try again. Okay, so I'm back to this section right here. I'm going to tell you what to put here. Again, all of this is optional. It depends on the teacher, but I'm going to show you how I would do it. So I wouldn't put anything on the reading level. The genre, most of the time, it was nonfiction. Unlimited attempts. If you put in limited attempts, your students will be there forever. So I did limit my students to 2 attempts, especially in the beginning of the year, maybe 3. That way, if they have any technical difficulties, which again, I did have sometimes, but it was very rare. Again, like maybe once a week, I would have a student that they would say, I couldn't hear it. And it was the settings in their computer that I had to move around. And sometimes I didn't even know, and another student would help them. There's always going to be someone that could help you. And if not, then just reassign it again or reach out to someone. I know our computer lab manager is always available and she always helps in case I have a technical difficulty that I can't fix right away. But again, I would recommend to put 2 attempts. The first one in case there's a technical difficulty. That way they could do the second one. Because if you only do one and they have a technical difficulty, you'll have to reassign it to them again. Time limit. So I do want to give them a time limit. Once that minute is up, it's going to take them out of the assignment. I don't want them to spend a lot of time. It depends on you, but again, I wanted to use the less amount of time that I could, but I didn't want to do it every day. So I would put yes. Pronunciation sensitivity. So it auto-detects preview should be when listening and estimating errors. So this is kind of like, let's say you have a student with a heavy accent and you want to make the sensitivity less, you can, or you want to make the sensitivity more, you can, but I always left it as default. The whole year I always left it as default. And then reading coach. So this is the individualized feedback. You have to keep it on if you want your students to practice those tricky words that they had problems with. So I always left it on. The comprehension questions, these were the comprehension questions that I had mentioned. Right now it's on no, but if I click on yes, it will take me to this section right here. You can make your own questions, either multiple choice, text, rating, date, ranking, and upload a file. But like I said, I didn't really do this. So I'm just going to close that. And then there was also an option to, let me see. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go back. There was an option, if you saw the button on the side, that was generate AI questions. Let me try it again because I really do want to see, want you to see the generated questions. Okay, so if I click on yes, these are the generated questions. Again, if you don't want to do your own, you want to save some time, click on generated questions. You do have a limit of 10 questions, but I don't think you should be doing that many. At least for Fluency, I would go with maybe the max 3. And it takes less than a minute, a couple seconds for them to upload. So these are the questions. I did change the passage. It's now bees. So what do bees help plants produce? It gives you the correct question. All bees living in big groups called colonies, true or false. And then this is the open-ended question. It's not really formatted as the Savas questions that we have in the Fluency, but it's something, right? And again, you don't have to do it. Let's say you want the students to read the passage next to the questions. You can. I know for Fluency that usually isn't the case, but if you want to, you can. But for right now, since I don't want the comprehension questions, I'm just going to keep it on no, and then the required video. So I would not keep the video on, especially for my upper grade level, since I already know they love to get distracted for anything and imagine them looking at themselves. So I would always leave it as no. Now I'm going to click on next. I'm going to title it. You could title it however you want. The way that I would title it was day 1, week 1. And then another suggestion was to put marking period 1. That way, whenever you're doing your data reports, you have a little bit more of an idea what marking period it was. So this is the attachment. The article is already there. I don't need to click on anything over here. What we need to focus on is right here. So this is the due date when you want it to be due. I do not want it to be due on Monday. On Sunday, let's say I want it to be due on Monday. I'm going to click on Monday. I'm going to have it due at 11:59. That's fine. And then this is where you click on the classes that you wanted to go to. Let's say you have multiple classes, you're in middle school or high school. You could select all the classes here, where you only want one certain class to one reading, and then the other class to another one. Just click on the classes that you need. This section right here is where you select the students. I would always give the same passage to all of my students, but if you want to do different accommodations for other students, you can. So let's say you want just 1 or 2 students to read the passage on the bees. I would click the 2 students and then done. And then I want another 2 or 3 classes students to read the passage on the penguins. I would click their name here. But for right now, I'm just going to click all current students. I do not add a rubric. I didn't add points, but maybe you can to keep them motivated, 1 point. I didn't put anything on tag. And then this is a reflection check-in. It's a little SEL for Microsoft. So how are you feeling about this assignment? This is what the students would see after or before, I believe. You don't have to, like, again, I wouldn't keep it. So now to assign it. It's Saturday. So I could assign it right now on Saturday, or I could schedule it for Monday. I'm going to click on schedule to assign in the future. Click on Monday, and I want this assignment to come out at 6 a.m. So I'm going to schedule it, and it is here. So marking period day 1, week 1. These wouldn't be here, but again, it was for my period section, so it could be a little bit more clear. So now how did I do all of the assignments in less than 5 minutes? All you had to do was click on these 3 little dots and duplicate. So since it is Fluency, you would do the same Fluency passage all week. So I'm going to duplicate that assignment, and all I have to do is change the title. Day 2, I want it to be due on Tuesday, and I'm going to assign it for Tuesday, and I want them to see it at 6 a.m. Or I want it to come out at 6 a.m. Oh, sorry, the 19th. And there is day 2. So I'm going to go to that one, duplicate, same steps, but now I'm going to change it to day 3. I want it to be due on Wednesday, and I want to assign it for Wednesday. Now I'm going to do day 4, which would be Thursday. So I'm going to change it to day 4. Thursday. Oh, I think I clicked on the wrong one because it's saying update. Cancel. Don't click on edit. Click on duplicate. Day 4. Due on Thursday. And assign. Oh, I made it to assign now, but you get it right. You would assign it on Thursday. And then finally, the last day, I'm going to duplicate. I'm going to change it to day 5. And you don't have to name it like this. Maybe you want to be a little bit more specific and add the title of the passage. You can. I'm just doing this because my students were already used to it. Once I showed them how to look for it, they were able to figure it out. I'm going to assign it for Friday. And schedule. And that's it. So that's how you're able to do all of the assignments, the same passage for the whole week in less than 2 minutes. Miss Mercedes, you can't create the assignment yet. You can't create the assignment yet until you have the classroom. I know I would be doing them right now if I could as well. That way I could have the whole year plan. But sadly, you can't do that yet. Not until your roster is set up and you have your we have MIS sync it. That was basically it. If anyone has any questions, let me know. I do have some resources in the presentation. They're really good resources. If you're more of if you want like a little slower version and you're a visual learner like me, there is a YouTube playlist where it has all of their accelerators, even the math and the speaking. If you saw, they were there. So these are some videos that you could go to, or quick guides on all of the tools that they have. There's a lot of resources here that you could go through and share with your staff. I haven't shared the presentation yet. Let me share with you all really quick. So this is another tool that I use for homework. I did have a couple of parents, even in 4th grade, still telling me, is there something extra that I could do with my child at home to help with reading? Give them this. This is the best tool you could give them. It's basically the same thing, but they don't need to go into the Microsoft Classroom. It's just a website on its own. And it's even more fun because it gives them, the more that they read, the more games that they're going to be able to do, or the more points that they get. And they really do like it. So it's basically the same thing, but the teacher does not have to upload anything. All they have to do is go into the website, sign in with their Google Classroom, and it's there. I'm sorry, I wasn't sharing the screen, but it's this. If you click on it, once I share the presentation, it will take you to it. So the student is going to see here. The student is going to see this page, and all they have to do is sign in, or I don't even think they have to sign in, but it'll start them on the Fluency passages. So that's an extra little resources if you want to give it up for homework or any extra help. And let me share the presentation. I mean, while I'm doing that, if there's any questions, please let me know. And this is my email, or message me on Teams whenever you have time.
Thank you everyone for joining. I know you can still ask questions with Stephanie, and she's sharing her link. I hope you had a great day. Just make sure, if you would, please fill out the session survey. And then there's also one for the like an overall conference survey, if you don't mind filling that out. And remember to check back on Monday to see if you're a door prize winner. Thank you.